Hello, how's everybody? I wanted to get on here a minute and I noticed that Sebastian had asked a couple questions and I want to answer those questions and I want to answer a bunch of questions, but I wanted to just get on here and say a few words. My wife told me twice now, she told me that I need to go back and explain things better. And some of the things that the truths that I'm trying to bring forth. I just sort of say, there's a beast system and an antichrist system, and maybe I'm assuming too much, but because I actually, I didn't come into everything I believe overnight, and so I've gone back over, especially last week's video, and yeah, it probably a lot of things don't make sense, and I know that I need to just lay a groundwork. And I guess a lot of people maybe don't know about things Daniel's 70th week, or the statue, from the dream in Daniel that shows where we are. And this might sound like sort of bizarre or esoteric, or maybe not quite important prophetic language, but so I really feel like I need to go and do some just sort of basic videos, instructional kind of stuff. My heart, of course, what I want to do is I want to be out preaching right now, but we're locked down. And even as I do videos, just my heart is, I want the fire. I want this kind of anointing. But I've been strongly impressed by the Lord, to begin to study, go back again and study some things, and lay, a simple biblical groundwork for the end of the age, so that what I'm saying, and so that we can know, right? What if we, and I've said this before, but understanding, if we have an understanding of something, that understanding can unlock faith in us. And so while it might not be as exciting even for me, I'm just determined, for however long this short season lasts, for the lockdown and until we can get back out on the road and doing other stuff, I'm determined to try to bring some maybe foundational stuff, and some stuff that probably a lot of you have never heard. I'm gonna go over the church ages, and bring forth in the Bible what I believe are foundational, plumb line revelations that we have to understand if we're going to view what God is doing at the end of the age correctly. Okay. And I don't think that what I'm going to be bringing forth is really my opinion. I know a lot of people say, well, we don't, everybody's got their opinion about the end times. I'm going to be bringing forth things that I believe are absolutely vindicated. Okay, vindicated. For example, the fact of, Israel's place in the end times. This is what I consider a vindicated doctrine, right? That you can't really have your opinion on it, because God reached out his hand in human history and confirmed that word, that interpretation, by bringing it to pass. So having said that, I just wanted to get on here and give people an idea of where I'm coming from, what I'm going to be doing here over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And also maybe to apologize for the last video if it was too sort of technical or dense, or didn't, people, I don't know if that's in my imagination. I don't know, when you're talking to people, it's really difficult to tell what exactly is getting across and what's not getting across. If there's a real anointing there and you're preaching, it's getting across, right? But if when you're doing sort of teaching stuff, it can be difficult to gauge how much people are engaged, or how much is sinking in. So, I really appreciate like Sebastian's questions, and I really appreciate people just your feedback. If it's getting across, if there's something you don't understand, if there's something that you want to understand, please comment or ask questions, because that's what I really feel would serve the Lord's interest best at this time is to go into a kind of instructional mode. And like I said, of course, it's not as exciting. It's not cutting edge prophetic. And yet, I feel the anointing on it. When I begin to study, when I was going back in the Bible this morning and reading through Daniel and just reading on the statue, just reading on where we are in God's timeline according to this super, super clear prophecy that was given in the book of Daniel, and that we can know 100% so many things. And then I look out there at the church and I see them not even considering this stuff that's so clear. I was like, my goodness, I have to begin to talk about this stuff because this stuff is just not talked about anymore. Some of these Old Testament prophecies, I begin to read, in the book of Zechariah, and the super, unambiguous language that it uses to talk about, what's going to happen to natural Israel at the end of this age, and how now great swaths of the charismatic church don't even believe this, don't even believe in it, and are teaching replacement theology, which angers the Lord, by the way. I know that people are saying, well, God doesn't get angry. He does get angry. And I think that's something it even says in, book of Romans. Don't be arrogant towards the vine, right? Don't be arrogant, or you too can be cut off. So there's a tremendous arrogance and this replacement theology that's being taught now undercover, right, in the charismatic movement. People aren't calling it replacement theology, but it is replacement theology, and it's not good, and it's distorting people's views. So I'm going to also be going in, to the importance of Israel in the end times and the difference between Israel and the church. Romans chapter 11 spells this out again in unambiguous language. And I want you, whoever's following my page here, our page here, to be equipped, right? To know how to judge some of these prophecies that are coming forth, to see, okay, maybe this person had a real word from the Lord, but now I see they're filtering that through their wrong theology. And if we don't understand Israel and the church in the end times, you're going to become very confused, because there is a difference between Israel and the church. But like I said, you have a bunch of people now teaching and preaching that the church, in some level, replaced Israel, that there are no future promises, and there's major charismatic ministries now who believe this, and they are teaching this undercover. Okay, they're teaching this undercover. They're instructing people in these ways while not claiming to embrace replacement theology, yet they are embracing replacement theology. So not good at all. And so I want to just go over some, again, not like last Sunday's lesson. I'm talking about just some basic, a survey course, if you will. When you go to school, your first course, 101, is a survey course, and it gives you a framework within which everything else is laid out. So we do need a basic prophetic framework. Israel and the church, Daniel's 70th week, and then I'm going to go into the church ages and the emergence of the Antichrist spirit in the early church. A lot of people don't understand this, but the Antichrist spirit came in the early church, actually probably on the day of Pentecost. That spirit was released, and it's been working its way up through the church all of these millennia now, and we need to understand that. And so this, back to Sebastian's point, and he was asking some questions about this. Well, I felt, rather than just answer your question, Sebastian, outright, I would go ahead and just sort of go back and start in the Revelation. And I'm not going to go super in depth. I'm just going to give, like I said, a framework to maybe place some of the things that I'm teaching and preaching, place that onto that framework to give us a better understanding. Because at the end of the day, these, understanding these things does matter for our personal lives. It matters. It matters because with that understanding, we can gauge and judge prophecy. With that understanding, we can see, like, you can see what I'm talking about, bride versus church, and that, of course, has an impact on what we do, how we live our lives. So, all right, well, looking forward to this Sunday. I believe that I don't know if I'm going to start out with church ages, or probably I'll start out with Daniel's 70th week and the interpretation of the statue. you know, which is very important, and it's just a very clear. If you don't know what I'm talking about, tune in. I'm going to be talking about the dream of the statue with the head of gold, and then coming down to the legs of iron, and then the feet mixed with iron and clay. And it leads us right up to our day and the Antichrist system, right, that I'm always talking about. That is part of that statue. So tune in. If you have any other questions, you can write it in the comments below. Getting some new people on this page. Bless you. Welcome. What was I going to say? You're welcome to post on this page. I just ask people, you know, to try to keep your posts in a line with the things that we're discussing on the page or the things that we have discussed in the webinar. You know, just some people, you know, just posted everything, and I don't want to clutter up the page too much with just too many things. I want to keep it more or less focused to what we're dealing with, what we've been discussing on the videos and in the webinar. All right, well, nothing else to say. God bless everybody. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you again soon.